And before we get going, here's a word about our sponsors. SDHQ Motorsports is a powerhouse 30,000 square foot facility with 45 family members reporting for duty. This single owner, single location business is based out of Gilbert, Arizona. It can handle anything from a hot rod, daily driver, pre-runner, race vehicle, half-track or Kugelwagen, or just about any other project you need help with. Their skilled staff with hundreds of years of combined experience eats, sleeps, and breathes performance. So go check them out at sdhqmotorsports.com or check them out on Insta at sdhqmotorsports. The We Happy Few 506 podcast is brought to you in partnership with the Gettysburg Museum of History, home of the Major Dick Winters collection and the largest assortment of authentic Band of Brothers artifacts in the world. Visit the free museum at 219 Baltimore Street in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, or at www.gettysburgmuseumofhistory.com, and on the YouTube channel, The History Underground, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Well, hello and welcome along to another We Happy Few 506 podcast. Might be a bit of a short one today. We don't have guests, but we've decided to have a bit of a catch up. So I'm here with beautiful Doug Allen, slowing it right down, Dougie. I'm going to ask some questions about you. I'm going to get to know you tonight.
How are you, Matthew?
Not too bad.
Well, so you're not doing a moustache, you're not doing a beard. What are you doing? Is that just stubble I'm seeing there?
Yeah, it's sculpted stubble, mate.
Sculpted stubble.
Very, very cool beard shaver for Christmas. So I did grow it out so I can muck about with it. And so now this is just a little sculpted. It's very smooth. The wife likes it. She's like, "Oh, you're actually not pokey for once." Quite nice.
And you still don't have a grey hair on your head. I don't know how that's happened.
Yeah, no, I sound like my brother. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's just going to go overnight. Do you know what I mean?
You
Like,
reckon?
I'll just poof, overnight. I'll just look like Santa. But at the moment, I've probably got another 3 months of it, and then that's about it. But yeah, this beard trimmer, it comes with this inside the box. There's these stencils that you can stencil your beard.
No.
Cut the stencils. Yeah.
No. What is it, like a piece of plastic you stick on your face or
Yeah, but
something?
I don't know how it adheres to your face because it looks like some type of protractor geometry piece of equipment, and you put it and then cut around it. So I'm never using it. It's just
That's so bizarre. Why would anyone do that? You can just sight it if you're in front of the mirror. You're not going to be far off. No one's going to notice.
People are lazy, Doug. Have you ever noticed when you go to the States, when you go to fill up your car with fuel, the trigger button, and you put the 86, whatever it is, into your car, boom, like that, press the trigger button, in the little clicker underneath it that holds the trigger.
Yeah, that holds it up. Yeah. And England doesn't have it.
No, because in England, people would just walk off or go get packed the wet. And there would be petrol all over the forecourt.
That is really bizarre. But in America, you have to pay for your gas before you put it in still? That was the last time I went over there. People were still doing that. You have to go into the counter first, say $50 or whatever, and then you take a while to get used to.
It's kind of weird. Yeah. So if you it's cash, you got to go and slap your cash down before you start, which is pretty sensible when you think about it. Otherwise, you just swipe your card and it does a hold on your card, like takes $100, just holds it straight away, and then I don't know, takes whatever with me, like $13, whatever I'm putting in the
$12.50 of the shittest fuel that you have, please.
Fuel, that pink diesel that farmers use, I'm putting in my car.
Yeah, cherry diesel. Yeah.
Diesel. How's Berlin?
Yeah, Berlin's okay. It's kind of cold. But we've had actually pretty good weather where we get it's really rare in Berlin where you actually get blue sky and cold. Normally the cloud comes over in November. I've said this many times before, and then doesn't go away until like late April. But we had a really lovely day today. So went for a walk down the Kudamm and just been out today. Yeah, it's been really nice. But it's starting to get cold here. We've not got any snow, but we probably will get some in February. February's the month for snow here, February and March. Yeah.
I don't think I've warmed up. I'm definitely not warmed up in the last 36 hours.
Why? Where have you been? Where are you?
Well, I'm in my father-in-law's old house. My father-in-law passed away real suddenly. And so he's only got one relative, and that's my wife. So we're sort of taking on the estate, figuring it out, and all the stuff you do after someone passes away. But he was a little on the crazy side of things, and so it's a bit ramshackle and hoardery in places.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's any insulation anywhere. So I'm sort of like, we're trying to figure out what to do with it, but at the same time, I'm also fixing everything, the roofs and the insulation stuff. So like, I'm just tits cold all of the time.
Mm.
The cold nose all the time, like a dog. Wet nose, like a dog. So I'm
Yeah.
forward to going to Liège because I think I'll be warmer, even though normally I'm absolutely freezing.
When are you going to Liège? What's happening there? Is it a tour?
Uh, we are going out Friday. The tour's
Is it a Bastogne thing you're doing, or?
yeah, half and half. What we're doing is we are going um Liège because it's good to get to all the places we need to go to. So basically it's a Masters of the Air tour. So it's an escape and evasion tour. I come up with it. It's great. Like so Reg likes to come up with stuff. So if I come up with it, he always says, no, we can't do that. And then a week later comes back and gives me the idea I gave him a week ago. And I'm like, oh, yeah, it's a really good idea. It happened again. So it's escape and evasion. So basically, I was fascinated by the fact that when the crews go down, if they didn't die or they didn't get captured or killed or whatever, they found certain resistance units and they followed what was known as the Comet Line back to the UK. And then they weren't allowed to fly again because they knew what the Comet Line was. Do you know what I mean? So
Oh,
they
really? Oh.
assigned
So
us.
what is it? Is that a particular route then, like from village to village or town, or
Yeah,
is it?
it probably wasn't one specific. It probably was many splintered in which ones you chose. But I think it went through certain, excuse me, safe houses in certain places were the same, and obviously the agents would have to be the same because those are the guys running it. So I was fascinated by that, and I was like, could we do something like that? So uh, we are taking with us like Sora Spielberg, Kai Alexander, and another dude. Well, I apologize if you're listening to. So three guys who were in the Alice from Dallas crew
Yeah.
shot down. And there's a whole episode about it where they get captured. I mean, they get interrogated, and one of them's like an infiltrator and gets shot and all that. And then they go to like farmhouses and stuff. I think we found the farmhouse where they stayed out in and stuff. And so
Oh, wow.
and then where the Alice from Dallas plane crashed, we've actually worked with some local artists and dignitaries and stuff like that, and we're putting a memorial up there. It's actually been designed and built. I think it's just getting put together now. So we're going to go there, take everybody there, then go to the cemetery. And so like that's garnered some local interest. So
And
that's all
wow.
kind of all been done on one day. It's all been done on the Sunday because I know it sounds like a lot, but I don't think there is a huge amount to do and see on that day. There's a few surprises. I know some of the people listening here are coming up, so I can't say all of it. Some very cool surprise stuff. So on the first day, I think we're going to go and do some of the more Bastogne Battle of the Bulge boots on that we haven't done before. So we may cross over into some bound stuff as well.
Were you going to do a bit of the German stuff? I can't remember.
We did that on the last time we did a Bastogne tour.
That was only a couple of months ago, wasn't it?
No, I was just there for the festivities a couple of months
All
ago,
right.
like this time last year, I think.
Yeah.
It's a difficult one because, like, the remit for the historic, like, I think with a guide like Reg, he has a very specific way of telling the history, and he does it almost entirely through stories of soldiers that he's researched in the area, where he can put
Yeah.
faces and names in the on the ground. This happened. This was the engagement.
Yeah, he's brilliant at that. Yeah.
Brilliant at it. Yeah, this is what that these men won. This is what happened. And so what I think he really struggled with and kind of just did not want to do was tell a much more generic German story from the other side because there isn't any literature
Mm.
being written by the victors and The Defeated not really writing about stuff, and guys who didn't really know where they were because they were all just kind of press ganged into that attack. He didn't have a lot of knowledge of it. So what we would do is we would go and do, say, that patrol stuff with Julian and all that business, all the stuff where the tanks coming in that you're in episode 6 and all that business. And then we will kind of go around and see some German foxholes and stuff. But there wasn't a lot of sort of in-depth German side, which is a shame. I'd like to get into it deeply. I'd like to get into it. Probably like to find. You probably need a German guide who studied German literature to come and actually do somebody who's from a certain regiment who's researched it or whatever. I would really like to get into it. I think that would be really, really cool. As long as the Wehrmacht regiment and not the SS, I don't think you'd have any worries.
Yeah. What do you think about? Have you watched season 2 of?
Okay. Whoa, Mr. Douglas, because I've got this all figured out how we're going to do this.
Okay.
Hang on, let's be cool. You've jumped ahead. I have notes and everything. Okay, so all right, what I was gonna do, right? So I was gonna do a segue, and I was gonna go, "What are you watching at the moment, Dougie?" And then you were gonna go, "Well, I've just finished watching season 2 of SAS Rogue Heroes," and then I was gonna go, "All right, let's get into it," and then I've got like a system of scores out of 10 and discussion points on each.
Right. Well, we could still do that.
I mean, I'm going to still, okay. I just feel like, okay. Yeah, let's do that. Let's
okay. You can cut that bit out later and mark it because you'll edit it, this bit.
This is great stuff. Right. So, what are you watching at the moment, Dougie?
Well, I'm watching. I've just finished season 2 of SAS Rogue Heroes, which was brilliant. It was completely different from the first season.
Okay.
Did you notice that? It was like had a completely different feel for it, and it was like,
yep, I did indeed. All right. So, what I think we should do,
right,
from say it as you see it, we're not trying to impress each other, just exactly how you are. Well, I'm going to rate different bits of the show out of 10, and then we'll give season 2 of SAS Rogue Heroes an overall marking out of 10.
Okay.
It's stupid because number 1 on my list is overall, so let's not do that. Let's start with number 2. What are doing? The writing. Right, so there are 6 episodes. So the overall writing in the show, from an acting point of view, from point of view of you were getting those scripts, and then a point of view of an audience.
Yeah, that's a good question. That I think that the scripts. I think season 1 was better. Like season 1 to me was tongue in cheek,
right?
A little bit tongue in cheek, and it had a little bit of humor in it, and a little bit of when the typeface comes up, like the things you're about to see are mostly true,
right?
No, unbelievable and mostly true. It kind of that kind of rang true for the whole first season. I just thought the second season was I don't know. Well, it was more serious, and obviously with like Sea King's episode of like struggling with,
Yeah.
episode 5. That was, he had a full episode, which was really good. They gave that to. It was really I thought it was really well done, but I found that kind of tough to watch. I'd watched all this swashbuckling action, and then all of a sudden in season 1 and season 2 had a really different feel to it. And I think
I liken it to Batman, right? I liken it to there's just dramatic, like from a dramatic point of view. When you first watched Batman back in the day, right? You just buy into it.
Yeah,
it's just a dude dressed as a bat, kicking ass in Gotham, right?
Yeah.
And then afterwards, like there's these endless films trying to do the Batman origin story and explain it. And the more you try and do that, the less you believe it.
Yeah.
Like, you need to just buy in. And I think you're right. The first season, yeah, it was kind of tongue in cheek, and it was almost comic booky. Do you know what I mean? It was like
Yeah.
comic, and I think the second season, I just think they might have made a mistake in trying to sort of, I don't know, like retroactively explain that these guys are all, do you know, a certain way, and they were trying to.
Yeah, I kind of, especially with, the new cast members that were like the new group coming in, like how nuts they all were.
Mm,
Like, especially the Scottish guy. I mean, he was given, like, he was just nuts.
yeah,
And I kind of didn't really understand the reason for that. I didn't really understand what that was trying to portray. Like, and it's almost like um the hero of the piece, like brilliantly played by, is it Jack O'Connell, isn't it? Is that his name? Jack O'Connell, who plays Paddy Mayne. But his entire, he speaks in prose almost the entire time. He speaks like he's saying a poem, which
right.
is fantastic, but it's not realistic at all. And do you know what I mean? In any way.
Yeah,
But it was great to listen to and great to watch. And he plays a kind of a great psycho. Um, I don't know. I kind of felt that there was almost a bit too. It seemed like, even though neither of them are like, so all their operations that they went on were real, because that's all comes from, like, they did do all the airfields in Africa. That's what they were
yeah,
famous for. They
yeah.
did go ahead on the beaches and take out these gun places. They did all this stuff.
Yeah, and they definitely had to row past paratroopers that were drowning in the ocean.
Yeah, although quite how that was delivered was like, obviously it was delivered for the basis of the audience. Like, there's no way that Paddy Mayne would have known at that time, that anyone would have known on the ship, that there's gliders above and they're going to be falling short. They didn't know that. They would never, how would they have known that? And that was obviously done to the audience to explain the fact that there were gliders and people in the water, because you wouldn't know why. But
But if the gliders had, as they did, or the whatever they dropped short, by the time that information had gotten back and then got back to GCHQ, whatever it is, and then back to a ship, the guy
shit, yeah.
dead, because it
Yeah,
doesn't.
exactly. It would have been over. Yeah, I just kind of, the action kind of got a lot more serious, and everyone kind of got a lot more serious. And I just kind of felt that if you go serious, then you've got to make it accurate.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then the inaccuracies kind of,
Yeah.
you see
Yeah.
what I mean? I don't know. It just didn't feel as watchable as the first season. It just kind of, the first season was like all the characters and Dudley and all this kind of, like, we're all kind of, it was just swashbuckling. That's the best word I can use to describe season one, was like swashbuckling heroes in a desert war. I mean, we all know that the European war was different, and they do say that, because the desert war was a war of gentlemen, because
Right.
it was Rommel, and he was a career soldier. He was one of the best soldiers ever, best commanders. And there were rules, and they were all, and the commanders all came from World War One, when there was etiquette, and there was, it was like that. And the desert being so flat, it was kind of, it was an old tactical warfare. But then obviously in Europe, where it changes. The warfare became horrific, really.
Yeah.
I kind of get that, but do you reckon, are they going to make a third season now? They've just dropped in on the last one, when they start with D-Day.
I mean, I mean, the story itself gets really, really interesting. I mean, they do some incredible stuff if you sort of read ahead.
Yeah,
But I
yeah,
don't think there'll be a third season. I think there should be.
yeah.
Um,
Because a lot happens, and a lot, but it'll be a very dark season. It'll be the darkest one, because that's when, especially in France, a lot of them were captured and were executed, and which they did allude to in season two.
yeah. I mean, yeah. Yeah, I just like for
What
season.
did you think of it then? What was your take on the? It's very difficult it's a difficult thing to sort of to
Because
kind
we're
of get grips of.
talking about overall, like all right, for season one, it was. How do I explain this? Like, I don't care about any of the historical inaccuracies, and I'm a history nerd, right? I knew who Paddy Mayne was before. I knew that he toured with the British and Irish Lions. I knew he was 6'4", and he was
Yeah,
quiet spoken and highly intelligent and never swore, by the way.
he didn't swear, and he probably didn't have an Irish accent either. He had a public school English.
He had a lilting accent, and I didn't care about any of that.
Yeah, no
I
me.
didn't care about the fact that Sterling or Jock Lewis or any of those guys are not anywhere. Like, I think Jock Lewis was actually Australian. Um, I didn't care about any of it because it was so badass.
Yeah,
Okay, this is badass. And it had a lot of jeopardy in it. Like, not a lot actually was happening as far as jumping forward down the pitch, if you're using an American football term. They weren't making any yards really, but what they were doing, i.e., jeopardy, trying to go onto someone and blow stuff up. Like with season two, like it's quite sweeping.
Mm.
They hit the beaches in Italy and they take this, and then it's like, like you're not getting those sort of like little small encounters that have a lot of jeopardy. They seem to just sort of like smash through things very quickly. Um,
Yeah, exactly. And it's a lot more serious. And then there's this whole thing about the SAS being disbanded, which wasn't true either. The SAS was loved, and by the time that it was getting to Sicily, they had like the SAS had like 1,000 members or something.
which yeah,
It was like Churchill loved it, and it had expanded, and they were, yes, they may have changed the name, I think, or whatever, but like it wasn't like you're going to lose this and it's down to Paddy Mayne. That whole storyline was a creation, wasn't it? By the
yeah. I just think it it just lacked the tension of season one. Generally,
mm,
the tension, and I think some of that was the fact that it was a bit more sweeping with them. I mean, yes, they were used to shock troops rather than raiding and commando stuff that they did in the desert and all the rest of it. But I just think like it wasn't as like an incredibly intense adrenaline. I think it was
mm,
just they would just go in and then they've won, and then they go in and then they've won, and then they go in like
mm,
oh,
mm.
kind of trend. I think some of it was because it kept cutting away to Sterling in prison as well. And I was like, I don't think we need it. Like, just keeps deflating the tension every time they do that. I don't.
Yeah, he was because I watched they did a live Q&A with the release. Did you see it with the actors that played them all? And the guy that played Sterling said, yeah, I wasn't booked for season two. I was just season one. I wasn't
Oh,
supposed to be in it. So that was his whole storyline of being in Gadsey prison and then taken to Colditz. That
yeah,
wasn't in there in the original script. So that was added just to kind of keep him and keep that storyline kind of going, I think, because he was the big thing with the French spy, I think, to keep that going.
right. Yeah. Well, I'll get into that when we talk about the historical depictions because some of that's getting. A lot of that doesn't get on.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, a lot of it isn't true, but the thing is, as you say, season one, I didn't care because it was just brilliant. It was like these guys were like, screw all of this. We've got an idea. He used his class and everything, which you can imagine that Sterling did to get into the colonel's office or whatever and say, look, you can just imagine that that's what it may have been like. And it was all about class and hierarchy and all this kind of stuff. And then they just go off and do it. And it's just brilliant. And the long range desert group, just like fantastic. I mean, it's there, it just because we've never seen it before. And I think that was one of the things that I've never seen really any war movies that took part in the Africa. The only one I saw was The Hill. Sean
Yeah.
Connery playing in The Hill, which was like he was in a military prison in Africa. He was playing a desert rat, wasn't he? And then it had everyone in it. I mean, it was a real who's who of acting at the time, shot in black and white, but shot in the 60s. Was a fantastic film.
Yeah, that is a really good one.
Very good. One of my
Great.
favorites. It's definitely one of Sean Connery's best.
Yeah.
And but other than that, I've not seen the desert warfare depicted at all. And
No.
and I think that was a lot of the draw of it. Now we're getting back to familiar stuff in season 2. Okay, Sicily, it's Italy. They shot it all in Crete,
Right.
or Gibraltar, I think.
Okay.
Something like that. Yeah, I think it was Crete. And and it just becomes a little bit more, I guess, familiar. I guess I'm not sure.
Yeah, there might have been something in the fact that it was the way that it was lit as well, because of the sunlight and all the rest of it, kind of like opened it up a bit more. More claustrophobic about the night raids in the desert. I'm not sure. I just like
and all this stuff, like they're all wearing costumes then, and they're all getting leather jackets and hats, and they're all looking like that. They weren't. They were all in uniform. I'm pretty sure. It's just, you know what I mean. All this kind of like artistic licensing stuff, which is fine, but and the scene with him and the barber was just,
oh yeah.
that was kind of rubbish, really, wasn't it? I mean, what was that scene in there for? It was just a bit of a show-off scene, really.
Yeah.
It's just a way of getting the camera on Jack, who's a fantastic actor. I've got to say, really brilliant, and it's very hard to do a Northern Irish accent, actually, and he's fantastic at it, and he's very compelling. Really, really good actor, and they've obviously written those lines. You barely have to do anything because the lines are so immersive and evocative. Every word he speaks he is evocative, while the others had to move the story along, or had to do the hard lifting of the piece, where he just sits there and just rattles off, in this like, poetry kind of speak. It's a kind of a bit of a gift to him, wasn't it? What do you think about that?
What do we give the writing of it all? The actual sort of overall writing of the show out of 10?
Yeah, I thought it was good. I thought it kind of, it tells the story. It kind of, I enjoyed it. I do think season 1 was better though. But yeah, what was your thoughts on the writing?
I think season 1 I'd give it a 9, and I'd give this one a 7.
Yeah, 7 or even a 6.
But yeah, maybe 6.5.
Bringing the mafia into it and all this kind of stuff, bringing all these sort of crazy things into it, where it's,
yeah,
I don't know, and it's like, the whole church bit, with the priest, and and the way he goes off, the way Paddy Mayne goes off, and I don't know, he kind of does that all the time, and then he's sitting cleaning his feet or something, and then he goes off again, and it's just, I think that he did that. I think that the writing was much better for him. For the character of Paddy Mayne was much better in season 1.
Oh, definitely. I think I think they lumped way too much on him, and then
it was a bit of a, and there was always lovely close up of perfect, and it was just kind of a bit of the, they were kind of making love to him a little bit too much in season 2.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, we'll go 6.5, I think.
Yeah.
Well, should we do the historical depictions then? Because
well, I don't. You would know more about this than me, but I have listened to a really good podcast. We must get him on again, Tom Petch.
Oh yeah. Yes, yeah.
Because obviously he wrote the book. He's if you haven't heard him, listeners, he wrote a fantastic book on the SAS. He knows all of this story back to front. And if you go back and listen to one of our previous podcasts, I think it was over a year ago now when we had him on.
Yeah, we did. Yeah,
we should really get him back, because I've listened to him on another podcast recently where he was asked about all this thing, and he was saying, the typeface at the beginning should read, most of this which seems unbelievable is absolutely not based on any reality whatsoever. He thinks the whole thing is inaccurate completely. I mean, obviously the bases and the raids in season 1, they did do this. Their success, it is true that Paddy Mayne was attributed to 91 aircraft destroyed on the ground. That's kind of known as a bit of a fact, but beyond that, I really don't know how much is true. I mean, you would have researched this a lot. I mean, what's your take on it?
Well, first and foremost, I think my take on it is that it like it, the truth is in the history books or in
Yeah.
there's a 1986 documentary, I believe, something like that, that has all the guys on it. Not Paddy, obviously, he died shortly after the war. Where you get kind of a true depiction of what these guys were like Reg Seekings and stuff. Is I don't
Oh, really? Interviewed?
yeah
Really?
whether that stuff did happen with the kid and everything, but like he's hard as shit. Okay, because he was known as like the hardest guy in the SAS, and I think he was a bare knuckle boxer and stuff. And like you see him interviewed, and you're like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, and like you were very hard. And Sterling's interviewed and stuff and all this business. I think the history's in the history books. If like, and what's good about the show is that at least points people towards the history books, even if it's just proves the show wrong. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And Sea Kings, I thought he was very well cast. I don't know who that chap is. I've not seen him in anything else, but he did very good.
Theo something.
Yeah, but he looks hard as now, doesn't he? He just a great piece of casting, wasn't it, for him?
Yeah. Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's one of those things like we were saying. I'm not sure because of the way the show was. If again, like in the first season, I didn't care, and in the second season, because of the way they chose to do it, because of the way they chose to add psychological elements and to try and get under the skin a bit more, I think they got onto thorny ground with some of the guys because I'm like,
I
this is
think you're right. Yeah, I think that was it. We didn't like that whole episode 5 with Sea Kings. We didn't. I would have loved to have not seen that.
yeah, I don't.
Why? Why? Because yeah, exactly. Maybe that's what it was. I couldn't pinpoint what was the fundamental difference between 1 and 2. And it was if you want to make it then serious and you want to, you know,
Yeah, then you
show the the
yeah,
the hardships of war. I mean, to be honest with you, the only thing you had to do to really show was the moment when Sea Kings goes down his street and sits in front of the door. That one scene would have done what the whole episode was trying to do.
the rest of it, yeah, we
Don't
get
you agree?
yeah,
And
yeah,
and if they had just done that, and then continued with more of the season 1 kind of feel of it,
and
I
just
think
little moments where he's not quite the man he was. I think you get it. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, him not him staying up all night, smoke, and him kind of being, that scene where he gives him Blake, or what is that? Is that suicide stuff he gave him, the chemical?
It's just like a sleep drug.
Is it like, you either take this or you read Blake, whatever, and I'll see you in the morning sort of thing. I guess, I don't know whether that's a kind of even a great scene to put in, but yeah, I do believe that. I don't know. And that, what do you think about the Sterling side, the brother? What do you think about his role in it in terms of
Kind of, we can get into the weeds with all of that. I mean, I will get to the weeds with that now. All I'll
yeah.
oh, now that we're getting into it is the stuff with Reg, and he befriends the kid. Like, I don't know about you, but I saw what was coming a mile away. Now,
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's based in reality. If it is, I mean, it's freaking horrible. But like, because I don't know, like I found that very clunky. If it's, do you know what I mean? Is that just as a
Yeah,
maximum?
it was an outlier in the whole it was an outlier in the whole show.
Yeah,
Over the whole of 2 seasons, we're on this ride with these pioneers.
yeah,
Like, we can see in documentaries, we can see in other movies the horror. You don't have to watch the first sequence of Saving Private Ryan to know the horrors of it, which everyone goes on about. We don't need to see a whole episode of the kid, the family, the whole thing being destroyed, seeking to, and then stabbing that guy for being the spotter. Like, we don't. I just kind of felt. I think you're right. It kind of lost its way there completely.
well, all right. So the brother as well. Okay, so you stop me if you know all this, but I mean, I'll just tell because of the list. We're having this conversation. I forgot we were doing a podcast. um, um, so what actually happened with David Sterling is he was imprisoned, and he I think he was with another SAS guy. I'm not sure, but another prisoner was put in his cell, And the other SAS guy that was with him didn't trust this guy was Italian because he had really nice shoes. He was like, there's something off about him. And it turns out he was, in fact, a stool pigeon. He was an ardent fascist. And Sterling just told him everything. He just befriended him, told him everything of what he knew and all the command and everything, because that was kind of like, I don't know, like Sterling could be kind of clumsy in his ways. Do you know what I mean? It was kind of like, yeah, he told him everything, and they just wiped that bit completely out. And instead, and this is where it also gets kind of clunky, is like clearly the French spy is not wasn't real. Like that's
Yeah.
so then you have a dramatic person who's been made up coming to a place and then dressed as a nurse, and then it was like none of it.
Yeah.
It's okay if has been made up because there might have been someone like her and is involved in stuff that were happening. But then when there's a whole love story with someone who didn't actually exist, and they go and do something kind of far-fetched, like dressed as a nun and go into his cell, it got a bit like, what on earth?
Yeah, that whole.
I don't know the stuff with you. The question about your brother. Yeah, I don't know. What did you think about that stuff? It seemed very. I don't know.
Well, he was playing the straight man, wasn't he?
Yeah,
But the thing is that
it seemed kind
the straight man is normally there to identify to the audience how crazy everyone else is. But this has already been established, so you don't really need him.
of right.
Almost, you know what I mean? He was probably, I think he was trying to portray, obviously the stiff British upper lip of the old ways of the army. And I just kind of feel that didn't really work either. And the French spy again, trying to sort of chat him up as well to try and get him But I totally agree with you, that the affair between the imagined spy and David Sterling was a little bit too far, and the fact that she dressed up as a nun and got in as under the guise of the Red Cross into meet is a bit much. But that's interesting. I didn't know that about Dave Sterling. He did actually spill the beans to this guy. He had a bit of a history of it. Have you read his Wikipedia, like what he did in the 70s?
He's an odd duck.
Odd guy, yeah. Set up this group to kind of potentially overthrow the government and all this kind of stuff in the drinking clubs of Mayfair and all this sort of stuff. And it was a bit of a weirdo, kind of. Yeah, he wasn't quite all there, was he?
Odd duck. Yeah, he was definitely a peculiar character. Which of course you'd have to be that sort. But yeah, I didn't. Stuff with the brother, I didn't really. I thought it was kind of lightweight. Do you know what I mean? Unlike you, I wasn't quite sure of the point of it. Like he said, up to get that. Is there a rivalry between the two of them? I don't feel it.
No, but I think. I mean, it almost said it in the script, didn't they? Paddy, like the way they portrayed Paddy Mayne was that he needs someone to hate. So basically, the brother Sterling was just another person that he needs to hate, so that you start off this conflict, because obviously conflict is what we all want to see.
Right.
That's the sort of cornerstone of any drama, is some form of conflict in whatever form it is. And I think he was there for that. But then, of course, they become close, like he did with his brother towards the end of the first season. And, that kind of, it doesn't have a resolution. It has a very strange resolution when they sort of pay each other a half compliment, and then he's on his side. But then immediately that's taken up by another conflict when he's double crossed by Dudley, allegedly. And so, do you know what I mean? It's just kind of there has to. I think that's they needed like a command structure conflict in an effort to ignite this character of Paddy Mayne, which they had written as a conflict addict, basically, which I'm not entirely sure that's not even true, is it? He wasn't, was he? I mean, you know more about him than me.
Yeah, he was someone highly intelligent, like a brilliant, like all the people on the documentary, anybody that you read about they loved serving under Paddy Mayne. Like they describe it as feeling safe, if that's the right word. Like following someone into combat, you just think, I'm going to be all right if I'm with this guy. Now, there's no greater compliment and no greater thing that you can have as a leader or have as a soldier following a leader and think, I'll be all right as long as I'm with that guy. What happens with Paddy is if he drank, he became volcanic in his temper and all the sort of stories, but they're very anecdotal of the things that he did tend to be when he had hit the smash in a bar and he disagree with the bar tab and get his pistol in, shoot the feet of the waiter, shoot a circle around the waiter's feet or whatever because he didn't want to pay the bar tab or stuff. I think when it came to the actual combat stuff, he was an incredibly astute leader.
Yeah, I think that's the thing they didn't get across. That's the biggest thing that I read about him in the past was that he cared about his men. While in the show, you don't get the sense that he cares about anyone.
That's the trick. Maybe we've got there by a roundabout way, Dougie. I think that's the trick they missed in season 2. Season 1 ends with him shooting like blood will flow, like he's gonna lead the SAS.
Great ending with the AC/DC on the thing, and it's just one of the best endings ever.
Yeah, so like they set it up for season 2 for like him to be leading his men, and you don't really get it. Like I feel like he's having this internal conflict all the time of who he is that we're hearing about in slightly heretical prose all the time. Like they should just show him in situations that he was actually in. Just tell some of the actual stories much more dramatic than the way that they're writing stuff.
I mean, he did stuff that was incredible. Right. The stuff that he did in the Normandy stuff that I read about, where part of his squadron was pinned down by machine guns in 3 separate barns, and he went in and cleared them out himself. Hearing the soldiers actually, I think it might have been a part of the same documentary you saw. I saw something that looked like it was in the 1980s or something, where the guys went, he basically did it himself. We were all pinned down, and he came up and did 2 sweeps with a Jeep driver, and then went into one barn, cleared them out, did 2 sweeps, and cleared them all off. Like, just stuff like that is just amazing. But and I just kind of, I don't know. What do you think about, there seems to be, I don't know if I spotted it, but no one else did, or if it's not true at all, with Owen McGonagall, that they were a little bit more than friends.
Yeah, that's the theory. That him and Owen McGonagall were lovers. Whether it was consummated lovers or they were platonic lovers, I don't know. But that is the theory with Paddy, is that he was tortured in that direction as well. And I think up at the Firth of Forth, when they were doing commando training, way before any of the deployments, the early deployments, there was an officer that they all knew was gay, and Paddy tortured him. Like, I don't know. He just had it out for him. So I'm not sure, but I think that I don't know. It's a weird. They were probably trying to suggest it dramatically. I don't think it's ever been written down, yay or nay. Probably suggest it dramatically, but nowadays it's kind of funky, isn't it? Because people tend to do that in a very heavy-handed way now.
Yeah.
And then people are like, "Oh, it's so woke," so you can't. Might have been that him and Owen McGonagall were actually lovers, but you can't show it. Otherwise, people go, "That's just woke." But it could have been true. I don't know.
Yeah. So they did that quite well. Then they did that quite subtly and well. There's only a few shots.
If you watch season 1 again, there's a few bits, because I remember telling, when I watched it with my mum, talking about it. There's a few bits in it where they've clearly alluded to it.
Yeah.
One. And then there's stuff in the boat afterwards in season 2 and stuff. Yeah, I think that was the theory. Anyway, that's like.
What do you think about the portrayal of the other guys that came in then, that were all seemed like nutters or particular?
Well, I don't know.
What were they like? I mean, they seemed to be anything but. Like, when I watched this documentary done by
I know
a guy on the commando raid in Saint Nazaire, which is the same kind of people. They would come up, that suicide raid that they did on that big drive.
Oh, got a bunch of high explosive and rammed it into the.
Yeah, it was absolutely insane, and they all got either killed or captured. But it was an insane thing. But it's the same type of people. They're all commandos trained up in Scotland.
Yeah.
And they were all kind of quite peaceful.
Yeah.
I studied, English lit at Oxford, and one of us was a lawyer, and the other one was a historian, and the other was, it was all kind of like this. And I just kind of
the only one I know, I'm pretty sure I know of, is the guy that walking for like 300 kilometers and then seeing his old somebody he dated when he was young or something. Is it Tonkin?
Yeah, was that true, that story, or not?
That bit I don't know. I'm pretty sure he ends up as a really high figure in the SAS. He might have done a whole bunch of retraining of them later on. Quite a major figure.
Because that story in the last supper, in the dinner he had, what do you think about that?
Oh yeah.
I found that all a little bit. Tell me about Paddy Mayne. You know what I mean? Like I just kind of I was like, really?
Yeah, I wasn't all that impressed with that. Yeah, I quite liked his characterization. I thought he was a good actor.
Yeah.
The other guys, I'm not quite sure because I don't really know too much about them, but I do like. I know exactly what you mean. Like, you don't need to play up the nutter. What they're doing is nuts. You don't have to be a nutter.
Yeah.
You don't have to be like archetypal nutter. Like, I remember, like, the guys were in the desert when they first start making waves in the desert. They weren't useless, but they didn't really have a method of attacking until they met the long range patrols, which are these guys embedded in the desert in jeeps. And on that documentary, there is the guy who basically drove them around at night to all them.
Corporal Stackler.
And he is just a very mild-mannered chap who looks like he works in a watch shop in Cobham in Surrey. But he was born with this incredible ability that he could read the stars like a map. Like, he's just saying, I don't know, I've always been able to do it. Like, obviously he'd studied them in books and stuff like that, and he could look up at the sky and basically be like, all right, that's the turning off the A3 to Cobham and whatever, just by looking up at the stars. So his ability to do that was invaluable to the SAS, because they could basically just drive around at night with this guy going, yeah, it's left here, it's right here, I know exactly where I am. And that sort of like one-off weird, I swear people like that only ever come from England as well, eccentric Englishness is more like, to me, it's more interesting.
Yeah, and I kind of and I liked that character, and that was one of the names that I typed into Google. That was one of the first names, Sackler, I think, Corporal Sackler, to see if he was a real person of the Long Range Desert Group, and he was.
Yeah,
and then I found,
he's on the documentary, and he's incredibly youthful as well. He
still
have been alive up to a few years ago. Well, incredibly youthful, like just twinkly eyed. Crazy ass dude.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that was I just think, I wanted to see more in the desert, really. I just, the whole setting of the desert is something you so rarely see on screen. It was just so, I don't know, I just really liked it. And I've never heard, and here with Casablanca and all the rest of it, it was just kind of, I don't know. I think it just kind of worked with the romance of it. And then bringing it into sort of, stabbing a guy's eye out with his fork, and and just sort of, I don't know. It just lost it lost its charm.
Yeah, I agree.
And the charm was one of the main drivers in the first season. What's your next question on it?
Not from a acting point of view, just one more question. Basically, but for overall entertainment, what would you give it out of 10?
Season 2, definitely. I'll give a 7.
All right.
But season 1 was definitely a 9 or 9.5. That was just super entertaining.
Yeah. I'll tell you, the lad.
What do you think about the acting though? Because it was quite interesting, because it was a really interesting lessons for actors there. because you had Almonds and the Canadian guy or American guy who were one of the first who were with Jock Lewis's thing in the very first season. So they're in it the whole way through. And when Jock Lewis gets killed, they get given 1.5 seconds of screen time. Just to see what I mean? It was just a real thing. And you could see them. I was always watching them in the corner of shot because these are normal parts that I would play, you know, and you always watch them in the corner of shot and you know that they're acting. You know that they've talked about, well, this is my moment here. You know, Jock's died, but the camera's on someone else and I'm in the background, but I'm still going to do something. And I was watching them through the whole first season and you could really see, you know, and even when, you know, he falls in love with this Italian resistance girl and then they get split up and he gets killed, he literally gets like 1 second because he's not a main cast member and he's not Paddy Mayne and he's not Sea Kings and he's not Fraser or one of the other guys. I don't know, like one of the central 4 or 5 people. I just thought that was really interesting that you could see them all trying, but they just weren't getting. Did you notice stuff like that?
I did. I thought the acting was like up and downy. Like certain, and certain things not so good.
Yeah.
And that's just like people thinking, I'm not really sure what I'm doing. I think some of the Paddy Mayne stuff was a bit like that. I get the feeling sometimes he wasn't entirely sure why he was doing stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I got that too. I got that from all of them, actually.
Yeah, like what are we doing? And then like the more solid scenes, like the stuff with Dudley, like Dominic West would come in and he knew exactly what he was doing. And he was, you know, even if it was just falling off the wagon ass drunk and not like he got much more grounded with him.
Yeah.
But I thought it was pretty up and down in places, and I think it's because it didn't feel like the episodes had a sort of clear arc. They feel it was very piecemeal what they were doing, and I got the feeling that as soon as actors don't know what they're doing, they start tricks or they start. Do you know what I mean? And you can feel, as another actor, you can feel it. You just think that guy doesn't know what he's doing. He's not relaxed. You can tell he doesn't know what he's doing. He's not been like he doesn't feel comfortable.
Yeah. No, I'd agree with that. Yeah, I thought Alfie Allen did great in season 1 as Jock.
Yeah, he was great, and Sterling was great as well when he had because he had definite stuff that they were. I mean, he's a really good actor, that kid, and so they had real flint to the acting then, which meant they could palm off certain scenes with Paddy Mayne being crazy, and back to the sort of more grounded acting. Whereas it didn't seem. They
kind of lost that in season 2, didn't they? You had nowhere to go to be grounded because it was all Paddy Mayne, wasn't
it? Yeah. They perhaps should have put the camera on some of the other dudes, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm going to give it a few months and watch it again. I was so excited by it. Maybe I was just totally I was disappointed, but maybe if I watch it back, I think, no, it's actually pretty good.
Yeah. But I think you're right. It's definitely one to revisit because it is like the 2 seasons were 2 different shows.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It. Yeah. All right, we've nearly done an hour of us talking. It's been a good talk, Ducky. Half the time I've forgotten I'm on a podcast. I just want to bring something back before we go, and that is a pet peeve of mine. I've suddenly is this a new thing? I don't know if it probably doesn't happen in Germany. It has become vogue for people, and this is not young people either. This is people of all ages to sit on either a bus or a train and watch videos on their phone with the volume up quite loud.
What, like watch a TV show or something, or watch a video on Instagram or something?
YouTube reels and videos on their phones, just kind of scroll.
Yeah, no, people have been doing that here too. But it's weird. But they normally do get told to shut up.
Do they?
because it's people don't stand for it. But I did notice it when I was back in the UK. People watching it with no headphones on. They're just watching it loud, turn it up, don't care, sort of thing. Yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
It is weird. It's very yeah. Okay, well, it's just my pet peeve. I wanted to say, do you know what? I've got another pet peeve that's kind of weird, and it's because I don't understand it. I don't understand the biology of it. You know, when you get an itch and it's so bad, have you ever got an itch and you thought, I'm not going to scratch it. I'm just going to try and control the itch.
Yeah.
And like, even if someone had a Gestapo to a small kitten's head and said, if you scratch it, I blow the kitten away, you'd scratch the itch because you just can't stand it.
Yeah.
Right? But when you get to the itch, all you have to do is do that. The tiniest amount of scratching, and it's gone. Where does it come from? Where does it go? And why does it take so little to get rid of it? What is an itch? Do we know? Write in the
write in on the comments and let us know
if you've ever been able to ignore an itch. And why is it?
Try that though. I did try that once a week, or maybe I'd always try to go. No, I'm not gonna itch this one, and I always end up doing it.
Weird, like I'll lie in bed, and I just think I'm not gonna itch it, and then I in my mind some terrible things can happen. I can never do it. Look, you really have made a bitch. Weird. And then like I think I'll do it, and like, just 2 little scratches, it's gone. Like the whole thing's gone.
Oh dear.
Okay. On that bombshell.
Yes.
Good chat. All right. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. It was good to have a little catch up. Let us know your thoughts on itching, although not.
Yeah, and who you want, who would you like to come on? If you got any ideas, let us know.
Yeah,
we'll try and get Tom Petch back on and in a couple of weeks and see if we can have a little revisit on this Rogue Heroes thing, because he'll be able to supply us with some proper.
Yeah, I know what you thought of season 2 of Rogue Heroes. Hopefully. You realise we were just talking about it dramatically from a point of view of people who really like the show and just how it affected this time. We're not bagging anybody.
No, not at all.
I thought really good in the show who came on our podcast, and I actually left them a voice message and told them I thought it was really good, and I got this hilarious message back that I can't play you because it's in broad Scouse and there's lots of swearing. But yeah, let us know what you think. All right, fellas. Well, thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for subscribing on Patreon. And we'll catch you next week. Cheers, fellas. Bye.
Thank you. See ya. Cheers.